Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. I just started a second pants fitting class for Fabric Mart Fabric on Sunday. So I have pants fit adjustments on the brain, and I got a really good question from a subscriber asking me how to smooth the wrinkles on her wide leg jeans. This is a really cool example. I want to share it with you because there's a few different things going on, and she sent me really clear pictures, so I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about in her, on her jeans, and then I'm going to show you how I would suggest fixing those wrinkles. So let's start by looking at the side view here. The side view is my favorite place to start diagnosing wrinkles because you can really see the relationship between the front and back leg, and it also reveals a little bit more about how the upper thigh is fitting based on the shape of your figure. So you can see here that she has a prominent front thigh or an athletic front thigh, and it's causing wrinkles from the center of her leg, drawing down from the side view. And in a minute, when we look at the back view, I think we'll see that the fabric might be snug there as well. But the issue with having a prominent front thigh is that's a dimension that's not captured by a crotch length measurement. I know that it's really popular to use those curved rulers to measure your the length of your crotch so you can adjust your pattern to that measurement. But things like a prominent front thigh don't get taken into consideration when you're using a curved ruler to measure the actual, physical length of your crotch. So what's happening here is the fabric from side seam to inseam is not wide enough to, stretch across the front of your leg. And what's actually happening is it's pulling the side seam and it's also pulling at the center front seam. So that's the first thing that we have to deal with here is a prominent front thigh. I'm just going to jot these things down and then I'm going to show them to you in order. So I'm going to put prominent front thigh. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing you can see from the side view is there are diagonal wrinkles also going from front to back, pointing down across the side seam to the back leg. And if you look on the back leg, you can see there's some fabric puddling along her back leg. That's an indication that she has a little bit too much vertical length in the back compared to the front. So I'm also going to write down that we're going to remove some vertical length on the back leg. Now, because she has the front thigh, prominent front thigh, some of that wrinkle is being contributed to that, but then also I think some of it is because her back leg is too long. So in this case, I think I would make a smaller adjustment than I would if she didn't have the front thigh also pulling on the fabric. The next thing I want to do is look at the back view. From the back view here, we can see that the fabric looks like it's pressing up against her back leg. It's very, very snug. I think that this is being caused by the problem we have in the front with that prominent front thigh. If there's not enough room wrapping around the front of the leg, the front crotch point is pulling the back crotch point forward. So that means there's not enough depth front to back to fit properly. So how we're going to fix that is we are going to extend the crotch points. Now, traditionally, I would say lengthen the front crotch point to help alleviate, not having enough length for the prominent front thigh. But one thing that you can do when you're looking at this is check out and see where your inseam is. If your inseam is a little bit too far forward, adding to the front inseam is going to push it back. Okay, so I would just add to the front inseam to make more room so the back leg is not laying or being pulled up against the back of your body. But if your inseam is in a good place, you might want to add a little bit to the front and a little bit to the back So you're relaxing the fit without changing the position of that inseam. So that's one thing I see looking at the back. So I'm just going to write down here, we're going to extend crotch points. Okay, and then the other thing you can see from the back view, you can see that fabric puddling and some wrinkles on her back leg, indicating or supporting what we saw on the side, meaning she has a little bit too much vertical length, but also you can see some diagonal wrinkles pointing up to the center back seam or the back of the crotch curve. And what that's telling me is the inseam might be a little bit too short. The other reason why I think that's happening is you can see that the hem picks up on the inside of the leg when you're looking at her back view. So I think we also have to lengthen the inseam a little bit. So I'm going to make a note of that. Lengthen inseam. So I think there are three things going on that we're going to adjust here. We're going to extend the crotch points to relax the fabric wrapping around the front leg for her prominent front thigh. We're going to scoop down a little bit to pick up some of that extra length on her back leg. And we're also going to extend the inseam a little bit to make it longer. And you're probably saying to yourself at this point, well, if we're going to be shortening the vertical length on the back leg, then why do we have to increase the length of the inseam? And I just want to show you that and explain that to you first. Let's start with that. So let's look at this set of legs here. And what I want to show you is, I'm going to cut off the paper here along this inseam. And I'm going to cut the paper off of this inseam. I just want to show you something. Okay, so let's pretend that we're sewn together here. Okay, and when you put your inseams together, you can see the shape of your crotch curve. You can see your horizontal space that you have. That's the depth I was talking about in terms of having enough room front to back to accommodate the, prominent front thigh, which is right here. But also, if we look at it this way, what we can see is sometimes what happens is you may have too much fabric here on the back leg, but the inseam may need to come up a little bit higher to accommodate how high it needs to come up on your body. Meaning the inseam may need to extend farther than the actual base of the crotch curve. And that has to do with the relationship between the front and back and how they're joining. Let's start out by lengthening our inseam. Okay, because I like to do all of my vertical adjustments first, and really the lengthening of the inseam and then scooping down are two things that have to do with vertical adjustments. So if we start by drawing ourselves a guideline, I like to do it around between 1.5 and 2 inches below the tip of the crotch. And I'm just going to draw them both right now because if we're lengthening the inseam, we have to do the front and the back. So in this case, I don't want to change the angle of my upper vertical balance line because I think it's probably already as close to the center back seam as I want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally going to cut on the vertical balance line, and I'm going to cut out the actual the horizontal balance line. And what we can do is we can lengthen the back crotch like this. So I don't think it's a lot. I think 1/2 inch here will do it. So basically you're going to put a piece of paper behind your pattern, and I'm going to tape it down. I'm going to measure a 1/2 inch, but in this case I'm just going to do 1/4 because I'm working with a, a small scale pattern here. And then I'm just going to reattach. So what I've done now is I've increased the inseam a little bit, and I think that that will help, that will help that. And just to true it up, I'm just going to, true it up like this. Okay, so now that we did the back this way, I'm going to do the same thing in the front, except in the front, I'm just going to cut across and create a pivot at the side seam. So this is a second way that you can lengthen. And in the front, I don't mind doing it this way because we're not going to be too close to the center front, just by virtue of the shape of the front leg versus the back leg. So in this case, I am just going to open that up a 1/2 inch. Okay, and you can see here now, if I just true that up, okay, we've taken care of that. So I'm going to cut that off. Okay, so we've got our front. And we've got our back. Now, something that comes into play now that we've changed this, I'm going to reestablish my grain line. People ask me this question all the time. I did an adjustment and it made the top of my grain line or balance line crooked. So you always want to establish your grain line from below the adjustment. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use my ruler and I'm going to connect the existing grain line with, straight up to the top. And you can see this did move my vertical balance line closer to center front, but actually now it's more balanced. It's in the center of the leg. So in the front, I think that that really worked out well. And then let's bring the back over. In the back, what we're going to do is we're just going to true up the top of the waist here like this. So it's almost like I'm splitting the difference where the back is too high. I'm trimming a little, and then I'm adding a little after the adjustment like this. Okay, so I've fixed that or trued that up, and then I'm just going to fix my inseam here. Okay, so that's how you lengthen your inseams to get rid of those little diagonal wrinkles in the back. And let me just show you that back view picture one more time. I'm circling the wrinkles that I think will smooth out because of this adjustment right here. Okay, next we need to pick up some of the extra vertical length we have in the back, and I'm just going to use a different color here. Let's use blue. So what we're talking about is picking some fabric up on the back leg. The front leg is not affected by this. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start up here near my full hip line, and I'm going to come down. And when I come down, I'm going to come down past the original curve, which is right here. And then I'm going to curve in and rejoin my original tip of my crotch. Okay, I don't want to skim any off there because I've just made it longer. So you can see I'm not adjusting the length of my inseam. I'm just scooping out some of the length. And if I were to draw up here is where the crotch, right here is where the base of the crotch is here. And then if I draw a second line, the base of the crotch is now right here. So you can see what we've done is we've transferred all of this fabric from below the crotch level to above the crotch level. So we've picked fabric up and put it above the crotch level. Now here's the thing. If your crotch feels tight, like it's giving you a wedgie, you might want to leave some of that length above the crotch. If it's too loose now and you feel like you're pulling it up too high, then you can get rid of it. Okay, so we've added that much. So the way you would get rid of it is to draw a line across your full hip area, measure the amount that you added. So right here I'm talking about a similar amount. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pleat that out by cutting through the center back. Oops. Let me just tape that back together here. And then making a little bit of a pleat right here. I mean, a pivot point right there. So then what I can do is just put this down like this. Okay, so now what I've done is I've gotten rid of the length that I added to the back leg or brought up from below the crotch level. Now I've gotten rid of it at the center back. Okay, so again, this depends on whether or not you need it there. So after you scoop down, see how it feels. If it feels like it's great and the back waist is sitting nicely, leave it. If it feels like it's too long and you have to pull it up, pleat some of it out. Now the other important thing to do here is you want to put one clip into your original stitching somewhere near the middle of the curve to release the first crotch seam, because if you don't release it, you won't realize the full benefit. So scooping down is going to pick up the fabric under your butt and also smooth those wrinkles that are diagonal from the front pointing down to the center back. And let's just look at those one more time. So here is the side view where you can see we're picking up the back leg to reduce these wrinkles, and then also on the back leg here we're just going to smooth that out by picking them up a little bit. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is extend the crotch points to give you more front to back room. And again, look at your inseam and see where it is. If you look and it's too far forward, we're just going to add to the front. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to draw a line from sort of where it starts to curve in the front, like right here. And then I'm going to draw as long of a slash line as I can get. So notice it's way down here. I'm not going to do like a short one like this. Don't do that because that'll make a funky shape. You want a nice long slash line. We're going to slash through the pattern all the way to the inseam, but we're not going to, disconnect it. Let me just tape this little piece together here. Give it a minute. Make sure every time you slash your pattern, you really tape it back together, because otherwise you'll end up with a mess like I have here, where I've sort of made a mess of it. So always make sure you're really taping things up as you make adjustments so everything stays accurate. A good example of, even if you're working with your full-size pattern, just make sure you're really taping your pieces together after you slice and dice them. Okay, so I'm going to put a little paper in here now, and to extend my crotch point without worrying about changing the shape or length of it, I'm just going to pivot this out a little bit. And I'm guessing in the front you may need to add a 1/2 inch. If it's more than a 1/2 inch, I would add the rest to the back. So up to a 1/2 inch I would add here, and then you're just going to redraw this shape like this. Okay, so you can see we added all of this room right here to add more length or ease across the front leg to make room for that athletic front thigh. So here's our 2 adjusted pattern pieces, but just remember, if you need to extend the back crotch, you would do it the same way. You would just draw yourself a slash line. You would slash through to the inseam, but not through the inseam, and then you would just pivot that out a little bit. And I'll just get a little piece of paper to fill that in. Okay, so if you needed to do it in the back as well, okay, you could just do something like that. You know, tape it down. You know, and then you would just true up your crotch curve. Something like that. Okay, so that's if you needed to add it in the back as well. Okay. And then I always like to put my crotch points back together to check and make sure the shape is still good. So you can see that that might be peeking up a little bit. See how the transition front to back now has a little bit of a peak here? You can just smooth that out, or really just trim it a little bit to make it smooth. Like that. And just so you have a smooth transition. But basically, here are your 2 completed pattern pieces that are addressing the things that we talked about in the beginning. Removing extra length on the back leg, lengthening our inseams, and then extending our crotch points to make more depth to fit front to back. All right, so this was kind of exciting for me. I'm really interested to see what the results are. And as usual, if I get any, feedback or resulting pictures, I'll do a follow-up video for this. But I don't know, these little fitting videos are really fun for me to do, especially when it's what I'm working on all day long, and I'm really in the zone for it. So I think this will go a long way to improving the wrinkles on those wide legs stretch denim jeans. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below and I will help you. And as always, if you have a fitting issue you need help with, please, contact me and send me pictures, and I can see if I can offer you any, next steps to help you. I hope you're enjoying Fit Tip Tuesdays. If you are, please consider subscribing. Remember, I'm having a special celebration when I reach 25,000 subscribers on my channel, and I have some really great giveaways to be given away during the celebration. So make sure you subscribe and keep your eyes peeled for more details on that. I will see you Friday for FabFit Friday live at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And I think what I'll be doing is working on the hem of my new Frenchy jean pattern, because it's got a little bit of a different treatment. So I'll see you on Friday for that. And thank you so much for watching.